Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into something pretty wicked today. We're talking about Wicked, the book and the musical that, changed how we think about The Wizard of Oz. And really, I think, kind of changed how we see villains in
He
general.
really did kind of turn things upside down. Didn't just retell the story, it made us question it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the
Yeah.
first time I saw it, I was just floored.
Yeah.
Like, wow, they actually made me feel bad for the Wicked Witch of the West.
It's interesting, right? Because it starts with that song, No One Mourns the Wicked. And right away, we're thinking, wait, whose side are we even on here?
Right. It makes you think about, like, is Glinda really the good one?
Right.
Because she's the one telling the story,
Yeah.
right? Like in the original Wizard of Oz.
Mm.
So are we just hearing her side of it?
Exactly. And that's what Gregory Maguire did so well in the book, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, he gave Elphaba a backstory.
He made her like a real person with feelings and, reasons for why she did what she did.
Yeah, she had her struggles, her own kind of prejudice to deal with because of her green skin, the fight for animal rights. It was complex.
And the book was popular, no question. But then the musical just blew up. It was like suddenly everyone was talking about Wicked.
The musical took those complex themes and, I don't know, it just brought it to life. The spectacle, the
Other than the
music.
music. I mean, those songs, right?
Yeah.
They're more than just catchy, like Defying Gravity. That's like an anthem
Yeah.
almost for anyone who feels different.
It really is, isn't it? It's about breaking free, not letting people tell you who you are or what you can do.
And it's not just that one. Like the whole show makes you think, what if the villain isn't really the villain?
Yeah.
And honestly, that idea kind of took off after Wicked. Like,
Mhm.
think about other movies and shows that came out after it, like Maleficent.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Suddenly we're seeing Sleeping Beauty's villain as like a tragic figure, a victim even. It's like Wicked opened the door for that kind of storytelling.
And then you have Joker, right? I mean, talk about trying to understand a villain. It's like they're saying, well, maybe he wouldn't be so bad if things had been different.
And I think that's the big shift that Wicked kind of started, right? It's not just good versus evil anymore. It's way more complicated than that.
Way more. And sometimes, even in shows that aren't about villains, the lines get blurry. Look at Breaking Bad. Walter White starts out as a good guy, but...
But he ends up doing some pretty terrible things.
Exactly, and that's something Wicked makes us think about, right? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Maybe it's not so simple.
Not at all. And I think that's just one of the ways that Wicked reflects, our own culture. We're more aware now of how complex people are, how life isn't just black and white.
Right, and Wicked really captures that, I think. And it's not just about, questioning good and evil. Like, Wicked gets into some pretty heavy stuff, too.
Yeah, like social justice, propaganda,
Mhm.
even like what happens when people get too much power. It's all in there.
Right. And it's crazy how they do that because it's still a fun musical. But when you really look at Oz, it's like a metaphor, for our own world and all its problems.
Total metaphor. Like think about Elphaba and how she fights for the animals. That's like straight up social justice.
Exactly. Like, are we going to be the ones who speak up, or are we going to just stand by and let bad things happen?
Oh, heavy stuff. But then there's also the whole thing with Elphaba and Glinda. Like that's a whole other layer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Their relationship is so complicated. I mean, they kind of get each other,
Yeah.
deep down, but they're also like total opposites.
Right. Glinda is like the perfect popular witch. And Elphaba's the outcast, the one who doesn't fit in.
But she's also the one who's like really smart and really wants to do good, even though she doesn't always, go about it the right way.
And together they kind of show us like what women go through, the pressure to be a certain way, to compete
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah, it's like society tries to make them enemies, but they find strength in their friendship.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then we can't forget about the wizard. Like at first he seems like a good leader, but
But then we find out he's just manipulating everyone, using fear and lies to stay in power, which is pretty relevant these days, don't you think?
oh, big time.
Yeah.
Like Wicked is telling us, hey, don't just believe everything you hear. Think for yourself.
Exactly. And even though Elphaba gets labeled as wicked, she's doing what she thinks is right, even if it's, not always the best way.
So is she really wedded? Or is she just trying to make things better? It's like, what even is good and evil anyway?
Right. It's not so black and white. And that's why I love that song For Good. Like, even the wickedest person can change.
And we all have those relationships, right? The ones that change us make us better, even if they're not always easy.
Yeah, the connections that, like, shape who we are. And that's what makes Wicked so, I don't know, universal. We all get it, even though it's about witches and wizards.
And speaking of getting it,
Yeah.
the fans. The Wicked fandom is, like, next level.
They're something else, aren't they? So passionate.
There's just something about the story that makes people want to, like, create art, write stories, just, like, dive in deep.
I think it's because it lets people explore, who they are and connect with others who love it just as much.
And that's what makes it a cultural touchstone, right? It's
Yeah.
more than just a show. It's like a starting point for conversations, even for change.
It's wild, right? Like, how many other stories have we heard where we only get one side, and now we're like, wait a minute, there's got to be more to this.
Yeah, Wicked made us question all the classics. Like, we don't just take the villain at face value anymore. We want to know, why are they the way they are?
It's like we learn to be more skeptical, which is good, right? I mean, especially these days when there's so much information out there.
Totally. Got to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Like that saying, there are three sides to every story. Yours, mine, and the truth.
And Wicked really pushes us to look for all those sides, even the ones that maybe make us uncomfortable.
Which is hard,
Yeah.
but important, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the thing is, Wicked speaks to so many different people. It doesn't matter where you're from or how old you are. There's something in it for everyone.
Right. Like it's about wanting to belong, figuring out who you are. Those are things we all struggle with.
It's human nature, and I think that's why it's still so popular. It's more than just entertainment. It's like something we connect with on a deeper level.
It makes you think, makes you feel, it sticks with you after you've seen it.
Exactly. It doesn't let you off easy. And that's what good art does, right? It makes you question things.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Wicked, I want to leave you with this. If Wicked can make us rethink the Wicked Witch of the West, who else are we judging too quickly? What other stories are we getting wrong?
That's a good question. And maybe Wicked is kind of saying, don't be afraid to question things, to see the world differently.
To defy gravity, right?
Exactly. Because there's always more to learn, always another perspective to consider.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Wicked. Keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.